Hey, what's up, stock compounders? Brad here. So, Phil Town's stock and options portfolio for quarter three of 2020 has been released. It was actually released like 2 weeks ago on October 29th. And I will link in the description to that file that describes what his current holdings are, both stock holdings and options holdings. But to be honest, I'm 2 weeks late on this because I didn't expect this to be released until the end of November. Okay. So it's pretty exciting. We get to see what Phil Town owns as of September 30th, the last day of quarter three of 2020. And I'll show you guys the file that's available through the SEC website. It is a total pain in the butt to comb for data. The formatting is just awful. But I went through it today. I pulled out, primarily the stock holdings as of September 30th. But I also pulled out some of the options stuff. We'll get into that a little bit. But really only in a way that it helps us better understand kind of his positioning with his stock holdings. So let's get right into this. Big changes for Phil Town in the third quarter. So he added 71% to his Bank of the Ozarks position, which is a massive add. I mean, he went from just shy of 300,000 shares to over 500,000 shares. So that was a big addition. It's now, 15% of the entire Rule 1 fund. 15%, just one stock. Bank OZK. CF Industries is his second biggest holding. He more than doubled his position in CF Industries. So another big buy there. Gildan Activewear, again, almost doubled that position, up 94% in terms of the share change from the second quarter to the third quarter of 2020. This gold ETF, he more than doubled his position in that gold ETF. And I believe this is the same gold ETF that Ray Dalio has bought into through Bridgewater. I know Phil Town is a big fan of Ray Dalio. And actually, if you guys are interested in this gold ETF, or even just the idea of investing in gold, as the U.S. is printing all of this money to try to deal with what's happening in the pandemic, check out Phil Town's latest podcast episode, Invested, with Phil and Danielle. He actually spends a lot of time talking about, how he's thinking about gold at this time in the market. So, well worth a listen. It's a really good, it's like 40 minutes podcast episode. I'll link to that as well in the description. So, pretty big gold position, 5% of the fund right now. And then finally, Armada Hoffler Properties, he added 19%. Okay, so not nothing, but nothing like the other four, which were pretty massive increases. So what you can see here, you can see the shares held by the Rule 1 fund in each of these stocks and this ETF as of March 31st, as of June 30th, as of September 30th. So you can kind of see, how that's changed over time. And this change is just from just in the third quarter. So from 6:30 to 9:30, that's what this change represents here. The price is the price I took today. So I looked all these up today. And this is the current share price at the time that I'm making this video on the 11th of November. And then I used today's price and the share count on September 30th to calculate the value of his holding. Now, I'm aware this share count may have changed since September 30th. So it's a little weird to use the share count from September 30th and the price from November 11th. But I feel like this is the most accurate data we have to kind of get a sense for what his allocation is. And then I broke down the allocation of each of these holdings. It's just the value divided by kind of the total assets in the portfolio. So you can see very, very heavily loaded towards Bank OZK. I was a little disappointed down here to see that Seritage Growth Properties is his smallest position. Because that's the only one I own out of Philtown's 10 positions here. So that was a little bit of a bummer. But, I'll get over it. What else can we look at? So Value Investors Club is one of my favorite resources to better understand a business, right? So great investors submit ideas to Value Investors Club, and only the best ones make it through. So, if I'm researching a stock, that's one of the first places I go, to Value Investors Club. And so I wanted to see, all right, are there write-ups available for, these 10 holdings that Philtown has, so I can get a better sense very quickly of what the business is about, whether I can understand the business, what a great investor sees as the investment thesis in this business. So you can see the most recent write-up for Bank OZK is from November 2017. It's a little on the older side, 3 years old, but I'm sure there's still some useful stuff in there. Now the price was $44 per share when this write-up was made. So you can see price today, $28. So it's come down significantly. So that may represent that there could be a deal here. Another thought I had as well, over the last 3 years, it's gone down quite a bit. That could be a cause for concern, but you really have to dig in and understand, what's happening with the business and the sentiment towards the business. So if you guys want to learn more about any of these companies, they all have write-ups. Except the gold ETF. So just a great resource to learn more about these businesses. Now, the next column is the low price in quarter three. Now, when a great investor buys something, in the last quarter, we don't know what price they bought at. Because they don't have to disclose the price. It's only disclosed what the price is kind of on the last day of the quarter, and that's what's used to calculate the value in the 13Fs, and in this case, in Phil's disclosure to the SEC. But what I like to do, if I'm trying to clone or get ideas from great investors, I just assume that they bought at the low price in the quarter that they bought additional shares, right? Because that means that I have a conservative estimate of at what price they bought. Because I know they didn't buy less than that, because that was the low price for the quarter. So I'm just going to assume they got all of their position at that low price. So you can see here what the low price is for each of these companies that Philtown added to in quarter three. You can see here $20. So it's currently 28. So it's up quite a bit from its low. If you look at the next one, CF Industries, we're actually pretty close to the low right now, the low of quarter three. So, could be an interesting time to look at CF Industries. And then for Gildan, we've got 15. That's up quite a bit from the low in quarter three at around 25 now. 167 for that gold ETF. We're actually fairly close to that low price for that gold ETF. And then Armada Hoffler, we're not too far off. 875 was the low, and we're at 1062. So, we're within striking distance with a number of these options here. So that's, just a way to get a sense for the current price. How close might it be to where, Philtown bought? That's a way to wrap your head around that. And then this last column is really interesting. Unfortunately, there were only 2 of the 5 positions that Philtown added to that he currently had put options out for at the end of quarter three. CF Industries, he had a put option on at a strike price of $27.50. Now, to me, that says $27.50 is a compelling price for Phil Town to own CF Industries. If you guys aren't familiar with put options, basically what Phil Town is doing here is he's selling insurance to people who own CF Industries, people who own the stock. He's saying, all right, if anytime before the expiration of these put options, the price goes down below $27.50 per share, I will buy your shares from you at $27.50. I will cap your downside in exchange for you paying me, a premium, an insurance payment. And it's a great way for value investors to get paid while they wait for the price of a stock, the price of a business they'd really like to own, to get down to that price that they'd like to own it at. Okay, so it's a great way to collect money while you wait, and Phil Town does this quite a bit. But the great thing about these put options for us is we get a sense, all right, clearly Phil Town would like to own this company at this price because he's telling these investors who already own the stock, I will buy it from you if it gets below that price. So that's, a pretty heavy indicator that he's interested at that price. So CF Industries, $27.50. Again, it's quite close to the current price. We're only about 10% off there, which can happen in one day, as we saw back in March with these, high volatility days in the stock market. The only other company that he was buying in the third quarter that he has put options out for is Armada Hoffler Properties. And the strike price on that is $10. So again, it tells me, he'd be happy to buy Armada Hoffler Properties at $10 per share. And the price today is $10.62. So we're very close. We're very close to the price that Phil Town would be happy to buy more Armada Hoffler. So, that's a really good indication of kind of the target buy price for Phil Town on some of these stocks. A couple other notable things. So cash, Phil Town has 45% of the Rule 1 fund in cash, which means he has 55% in equities. So that's a pretty heavy cash position. It's not as heavy as it was in quarter two, okay, because he added to 5 of these positions, some cases quite heavily. So he has less cash as a percentage than he did in quarter two, still has quite a bit of cash. And I think, the reason he's holding so much cash is, there's 2 indicators that Phil Town follows pretty closely to figure out where the market is as a whole. Are values aligned with price or are things kind of out of whack? He follows the Buffett indicator, which is kind of the Wilshire 5000 to GDP ratio, and he follows the Shiller PE. And both of those are crazy high. There's just no other way to say it. So, Phil Town, I'm sure, is looking at that and thinking, I really want to have cash now. Cash is quite valuable to me right now because the markets are just at such nosebleed prices. Even though there's all this printing of money, right? And people think, oh, there's all this printing of money, we're going to get inflation. I don't want to be in cash, right? No, you don't want to be in cash over the long term, that's for sure. But over a year or two, if cash gives you that opportunity to pounce on great companies that are steeply discounted, then maybe it's worth holding on to a decent chunk of cash. And that seems to be what Phil Town is doing. Just a few more notes, guys, before we end this. There was a new company that I saw in Phil Town's portfolio. It wasn't stock. He doesn't own common stock. He had a call option for it, and this is ticker HII. So that might be one to to keep an eye on, HII. That was a pretty short-term call option. It expired October 16th, 2020. So, he may own it. I don't know. Because we only see up through 9:30 here. And that was a 10:16 expiration for that call option. But, not too many changes with the put options. He's got Bank of America. He's got Ulta Beauty put options, Boeing, Seritage Growth Properties, Armada Hoffler. You already saw Armada Hoffler here, along with CF Industries. So, kind of the usual option situation for Philtown. He's got a number out, it seems, at any given time. Again, collecting money while he waits for these companies to get into his buy zone. But I think that's all I wanted to share for today, guys. I've linked here to the latest SEC filing. I'll do that in the description as well, but it's on this spreadsheet, which I will share with you guys in the description as well. So here's the latest filing, again, that came out on October 29th. It shows his portfolio holdings as of September 30th in a very non-user-friendly way, like I said. And then I'll link to the June 30th filing, which is much more user-friendly. It's like a spreadsheet that you can easily pull the numbers out of. So hopefully in the future they give us the more user-friendly format, and we don't have to, spend hours manually pulling this stuff out and sifting through. But anyway, guys, that's all I have for today. Let me know if you have any questions about any of this stuff, about Philtown's latest portfolio updates. Yeah, that's all I got. All right, guys, I will see you in the next video. Take care.